Hello and welcome to today's video. Today I'm in the township of Thames, which is at the basically the beginning of the Coromandel Peninsula in New Zealand, the North Island, and I've chosen this particular spot to do the video. I've got a big digger behind me. I think the digger might be due to be moved very soon because there's a truck there, but that's okay. But before it goes, just wanted to point out above my shoulder that the writing on it is Deconstruction Artist. Now, yesterday I decided on my subject for today, which I came up as going to be Deconstruct to Reconstruct. So I'm in the township of Thames and I drove here this morning, and also slightly interestingly, the township of Thames, when it was first established, around about 1869 I believe, was originally known as Grahamstown, and Graham happens to be my first name. And yeah, I thought, oh, that's kind of like, you know, every time I come through here, just noticeable. But it was established by a guy called Robert Graham, and the reason he established it in this area is because it's the area is known for its gold mining. And I've spoken about gold previously, how that relates to my life, and always had that interest in gold, and that I'm a carrier of the gold, which is what I'm sharing with people through these videos and my writings. And of course, you know, the establishment of a town, well, that's the construction of a town in the name of Mr. Graham. So yeah, that just kind of all ties in a synchronistic way. Then as I was just in the town, and I decided, it was just trying to decide which spot to come to park up for the night or the afternoon and the evening. And there was a number of places to choose, but I came out towards the sports ground, which is just outside of town. And I was thinking about the subject matter and looking for just a bit of a setting to sit in. And lo and behold, here's this digger here in the car park with Deconstruction Artist written on it, which I thought was very very synchronistic. So yeah, I'm going to do the presentation now. So Deconstruct to Reconstruct, how I came up with that, so many years ago, probably around about 2006, I started working for the government in New Zealand. Now prior to that, I'd always worked for private industry, and getting into working for the government was kind of a bit of a shock actually, kind of in the context of everything that they say about the inefficiencies of government and difficulties of working there. Kind of became pretty obvious early on, and I do remember my manager at the time, he's a very good friend still, but I met him for the first time in this job, and you know, I had these expectations that I was bringing in from the private sector, and I was getting a bit frustrated at times. And he said to me, you know, effectively I needed to probably lower my expectations, which is kind of interesting on reflection, because that was just putting a constraint on my being. But at the time it just seemed the thing to do. As I am now, I would not be, you know, putting myself in a position or anywhere where I needed to lower my expectations, because I have a much better understanding of what that all means. But at the time, yeah, it was difficult working there, and at various times, you know, you look at the whole organisation, it was quite a big one that I was working for, and you'd look at it and think, oh, you know, change is needed, and there was always new projects being done in various departments, literally reconstructing departments. But what I realised now on reflection was that the reconstruction that was being done was just like adding an outside layer to the building. It wasn't changing anything really fundamental. And the most fundamental thing about the government, or the people, or the situation that I was working in, was the people. And the people had their views, and there was a bit of a hive mentality, I suppose. And yeah, to just tinker around the edges is kind of, or try and fix things on the outside before fixing the fundamental issues, which now on reflection was probably more to do with people and how they viewed life. And as I've spoken about in prior videos, trying to fix things outside of oneself uses up a lot of energy, and the results are usually not particularly good. It's this whole situation which I talk about, the spiritual journey, about needing to fix oneself on the inside. Anyway, during that time I started thinking about what really needed to happen in the government, but it was more theoretical. And I came up with this concept that, I'm sure it's come up with many people in the past, but it just came to me in my mind, that to reconstruct you actually need to deconstruct. So you literally need to get rid of everything and start again. So it was almost a case of going back down to the ground and working from the ground up again, rather than trying to work from some higher levels and not really getting anywhere because we haven't changed the fundamental situation. So I sort of battled through my time working for the government, which was quite a while, and 9 years in that particular organisation, which on reflection was probably too long, but so be it. It's all part of the journey. And sort of applying it now into the spiritual path, and what I've talked about in terms of my own life, I realised that in effect that I had to, and I did, I effectively had to deconstruct to reconstruct. So I've talked about things like the death of the ego, changing one's physiology, so deep down all of the ingrained attitudes and anxiety and fear, worries, that is all ingrained in the being. And through various things, which I've talked about a lot about, we're talking about the meditations, we're talking about the being out in nature, we're talking about changing lifestyles, getting rid of people who perhaps were not, did not have my interest at heart, or if I was also expending energy on them for, on reflection, no particular reason. Travelling a lot, both in New Zealand and a little bit overseas, attending the most miraculous spiritual retreat in the Amazon in July 2025, plus my additional travels in Peru at the time, plus 4 weeks again in the Sacred Valley, and all of my writings. So we're talking a lot of things here where what I realised on reflection I was doing was deconstructing to reconstruct. And what I've just done is I've also just delved into my Chakra Wisdom Tarot deck, and I just want to sort of utilise 3 cards here in terms of what they really represent on the journey, literally the life journey, the spiritual journey, and then just tie it a little bit into what I'm getting at here. And so the first card I'll hold up is the Devil. So we'll get that up into the scene there. So that's the Devil card, and I'll just read out what that effectively represents in general terms. It sort of represents addiction, unhealthy attachments, trapped by the material world, self-imposed limitations, the need for shadow work, which is dealing with your darkness, and an illusion of powerlessness. And it's kind of an invitation where you are giving away, working at where you're giving away your power and try to reclaim your freedom. So it's a very important part of the process. It's almost the recognition that you're not powerless, but that you've got all these ingrained addictions or ingrained ideas, ingrained physiology in your being that you need to deal with in some way. And the next card in the tarot deck deals with that quite significantly. I'll hold that up. That is the Tower. So you can see a tower that's really been hit by lightning and is about to burn and destroy. And there's the Fool jumping to safety, but she will land feet first, as you can see there. So it's that case of when stuff happens around you, have faith. But I'll read out in general terms what that is. The tower, sudden upheaval, unexpected chaos, collapse of the status quo. It's a necessary destruction of old structures and limiting beliefs, and it makes way for genuine spiritual awakening and a fresh start. So that's the destruction. So first of all, realising that there's an issue. So like when I was talking about the government saying, well, gosh, there's problems here, and how do we fix it? Do we just tinker around the edges to try and fix it, or come up with a new project to change some procedures and way we do things, or do we actually have to be more fundamental than that and deconstruct? And the third card I've chosen here is the star. So there she is there, that's the Fool, now back on Earth with looking very serene, and the green being the heart surrounding there. But the heart, I'll just read out what the star, I should say, represents. It has hope, healing and spiritual renewal. Brings serenity and faith that the universe is supporting you. So it's a very positive card. So it's the beginning of the reconstruction. So how that happened for me in my life was over a period of time. So it's not an overnight, everything happens in one go. You realise everything or something's wrong, you then do the deconstruction straight away and you reconstruct. Because what you're dealing with in terms of recognition of issues, you're not always going to have this one moment in time. I definitely had some road to Damascus insights in life, so if anyone wants to go and have a look at some of my other videos, I explain some of those. And also in my writings on my website, viviendolamahianz.com. I had an accumulation of events, and then one particularly major event that really just said to me, I have to do something about this being that I had become. And then I needed to go about the deconstruction. So the deconstruction involved changing beliefs, practicing meditations, moving away from people, moving away from the kind of work that I was doing, getting more deeply, as I say, into nature, something that I probably neglected in the past, and really committing to a spiritual path. So I knew I had to get on a path. So that was the beginning of the reconstruction. So basically get rid of things, get rid of everything. So the tower had to fall, and I mean, even as late as 2025, so getting on that path in 2017, so 2025 was really when I possibly had the final dissolution of my ego. So that was a massive event in terms of coming about through my insights in my retreat in Peru. So so not only was I deconstructing things along the way, I was bit by bit reconstructing my life and reconstructing my being. So working on the holistic being. I wasn't in the end, I wasn't working on the things outside of me. So not trying to change the system, thinking that if I change the system, or if I change people outside of me, then I'll be fine. It doesn't work that way. One has to go internal, and I've spoken about this so much. One has to work on oneself, and on the spiritual journey, once one can just have that belief that the path will open up, get on the path. So again, moving from the darkness to the light, it's a process. And interestingly, when I sort of look at this wording on the digger behind me, which is deconstruction artist, I kind of thought about myself in the past that I was always good at, perhaps I could kind of destroy things, but I wasn't always good at making things. So I mean that kind of like in a I don't know, if there was a small building that needed knocking down, I could go in and knock down the building, but I didn't have that ability to come up with reconstructing a new building in its place. But you don't need that, of course, because you just employ people to do that on the outside. But when you're dealing with yourself individually, you need to tap into the creativity of the universe. So I've become much more creative, a constructor, a creationist, and again, that's me. I've been creating myself. So when people might think, well, deconstruction or things falling apart or being broken apart is not really artistry, it's part of the artistry. It's all-encompassing, particularly when you're on the spiritual journey, because you are the artist. You are your own artist. And my artistry is now coming out in the ways that I portray it. So it's coming out in these videos, it's coming out in my writings, and it's coming out in some of the imagery that I now utilise in some of the photos I put up. So yeah, it's an interesting journey, and I really highly recommend that if one wants to change things, that you really have to go pretty fundamental about this. You have to deconstruct to reconstruct, and you have to become your own artist, and the artist is both in terms of the deconstruction, which is the pathway to the reconstruction. Anyway, I hope that has brought you some light today. That's the purpose of these videos. As always, I'll continue my travels. I hope you have a good remainder of the day. I also wish you to enjoy the journey. We will meet when we should, and as always, I wish you namaste.